Ready to transform your health one step at a time?
Welcome to A Journey to Everyday Fitness with Emma
And Adrian.
Hello and welcome to episode 6. We have Andy Gore with us, which is very exciting. Hi, Andy.
Hi, guys.
Adrian, Emma, hopefully knows by now. Andy, tell us a little bit briefly about all your achievements competition-wise.
Yeah, start at the beginning, really, I suppose. Powerlifting for about 6 years now, 5 years, 5.5 years. Got into it just through an off chance of looking at doing strength training, you know, a bit of a gym goer. But obviously thought I'd be competitive at an older age, lifting, and found a local federation, entered a competition, broke 4 British records in the first competition, squat, bench, deadlift and total score. Entered British Championships, won that. Following year, entered British Championships, went on to do European Championships, IPL, International Powerlifting League, and then went on to IPL World Championships 2023 and won that as well.
Nice.
So yeah, they're the sort of titles, if you know what I mean. And just recently took part in WRPF World Raw Powerlifting Federation in Nottingham and won that category as well with some PB lifts. So that was just a qualifier. So that qualifies me to go on and do their nationals and international stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest. Yeah.
Pretty sweet. So I know you should never ask a lady her age, but how old are you?
32.
No, come on, let's make it believable.
Yeah. 51. 51, yeah.
51, and
Yeah.
you started...
Well, about 46, yeah. I was a late goer to powerlifting.
Yeah.
I was in the gym. Well, if we go way back, I was a boxer originally.
Okay.
154 pound, 11
Didn't know
stone.
that.
Yeah. So I used to box up until the age of about 40. So obviously fitness-wise, right up there, if you know what I mean, from a cardio point of view. And then obviously went into weight training, you know, just going to the gym, starting with weights. Obviously put on a little bit of size, liked it, kept that going. You could call it sort of bodybuilding, if you know what I mean, but I was never interested in competing bodybuilding. That the competition side of it didn't interest me, but the training did, if you know what I mean. I'm short, broad, and it sort of amplified that, and I quite like that, as we guys do, if you know what I mean. So from there, but just got disillusioned with it, you know. Went into the gym one morning, as I normally did, sat there looking at dumbbells, looked at the mirror and thought, what am I doing this for? There's no target, there's no end goal, there's no reason for doing it, apart from your own ego, I suppose, if you know what I mean, which is all right to a certain extent, but I don't sort of click like that, if you know what I mean. I needed more. So yeah. I looked at changing my training up, looked at doing strength training. I dabbled with German volume training, 10 sets of 10, which I really enjoyed. But when I researched that opened the world up into powerlifting, you know, and that's when that world sort of opened up to me of, you know, powerlifters and the sport itself. And then just went from there and looked at doing a proper powerlifting program. My first one was, I did a lot of research on them, and I found that the top 2 most proven programs was Strong Lifts 5x5 and Wendler 531. And I thought, being an older lifter, you know, mid-40s, now we're talking, so Masters 2, 45 to 49-year-olds, Wendler 531 would suit me better. You know, it's not as fatiguing and taxing.
Yeah.
So I just ran that program on my own, you know, got my numbers and did that, and massively improved on it. You know, one lift.
Pretty far on.
Yeah, I went from a 220 squat to a 245 in 13 weeks, and a 220 deadlift with straps. I couldn't deadlift without straps. To a 245 deadlift without straps, you know, alternate grip. So I massively improved on that. So I ran that a couple of times. Then I looked to get a coach, and I got a coach. So, yeah. Went from there. She gave me a program. We discussed it. We went through it, went through the numbers. And then in my first year, I gave myself a goal of squatting 500 pounds, deadlifting 500 pounds, which I did. Second year, I said I want to squat £600, which is 272.5 kilos. And I did that in 13 months and not 12. So it took me just over a year within that time. You know, the goal orientated. Then I started wondering whether I'd be competitive, you know. And a few people were, you know, sort of said, I think you'd probably do all right. So
what would you say if someone's considering, you know, they've started powerlifting, they're getting into it, the numbers are starting to creep up a little bit, like that first competition, what would you say, like attitude-wise, how should you go into it? I mean, I should imagine it's quite daunting.
yeah, it is. I mean, I went to watch a competition first so I could see how it ran, how it was, you know, laid out, and it's different completely. You'll find a lot of powerlifters will have their gym 1 rep maximum will be better than a competition one. Because in the gym, you can lift when you want to lift, when you're ready.
Yeah.
In a competition, you get told when to lift, even if you're not ready, you know. So if you wanted them extra few minutes, you don't get them.
Yeah.
You know, once the bar's loaded, you get a minute to start your lift, you know. In a gym, I could turn around and say, oh, it gives a few more minutes, you know, than wander off to the toilet for 5 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, pot
so
around.
you can, yeah, exactly. You can do it when you're ready, you know. Or you might turn around and say, I feel tired today, can we do it tomorrow? You know, whereas on a competition, it's there, it's done, you're doing it no matter what. So, yeah, I think that comes down to more mental side as well of it. But go and watch one. Go and find one.
That's
Google
what you said
one,
to one of my clients, who I'm still trying to convince her that she should do some form of competing. Obviously, she's come from not even being sporty. She's had no background in lifting at all, and she's got the perfect setup for powerlifting. She's got really short femurs. She squats really well for someone in her 50s, and her numbers they're getting decent, you know. And I'm trying to convince her. You gave her a little.
Well, yeah. I mean, from a master's point of view, I will admit, you know, the older you get, the less people do it.
Yeah.
There are the older generation, you know, and you can start at any time. But as you go on upwards, there are less people to compete against. But again, yeah, it's a competition. But in theory, you're really more competing against yourself, your own numbers. You know, that's more important. You know, you might come 4th, 5th in a competition, but if you've just hit a brand new squat PB that you've never lifted before, you're not bothered about where you've come because that's winning. You know what I mean? And that's the good thing about it. You know, it's more you versus you with your numbers. If you can get that mindset and not go with the competition side of, well, I've got to win, I'm going to come first, I'm going to second. If you just concentrate on your own numbers, it's an enjoyable, you know, and the atmosphere is something else, you know.
I guess that's that. Like, if you have got a bit of adrenaline, and you know, when you train normally, you do your reps, don't you? And you get it done, and you work through your program, you go up and whatever. When you've got that nervous energy and people shouting, cheering you on, and everything, you're more likely to get a better PB.
Adrenaline is the best form of energy, if you know what I mean. It's unbelievable. If you've got that nervous apprehension mixed with adrenaline, it's dangerous, you know what I mean. It can explode, you know what I mean. If you know how to channel it, which you learn to do, on a competition day, because I suffer with a bit of anxiety, nerves, and you know, when competition day, I very rarely eat anything in the morning. You know, I'll drink, I'll maybe have a banana, you know, and then I go into my warm-up lifts and I'll do my squats on a couple of bananas, you know. So you do your warm-up lifts in the back and then your 3 big lifts. So you're doing, 10, 12 lifts before in that session on a couple of bananas. Then your body starts to, you know, you start to relax into it. You can take on a bit more food and stuff like that. Some people can eat, you know, no problem with eating before and stuff like that. But me, once I get my squats out of the way, it's all right. I've always said I wish squats were at the end of it because I'd probably do better. If you know, put bench at first because I don't like bench. Yeah, but yeah, it's weird. Squats my best lift, and I love doing it. But I'm incredibly nervous on competition day for it. And then once I've got squats out of the way, I tend to just relax a bit. You know what I mean? Get into it. Yeah. So, but everyone's different. Some people, you know, don't suffer with that. And some people are really bad with it, you know. But yeah, but definitely go and watch one. The atmosphere is very addictive. You know, I've had a couple of mates come and watch, and they've said, "Oh, I want to do it," just through the atmosphere, you know, of watching it. So it's very supportive. There's no bitchiness, no nothing. You know, even when you compete against someone, 9 times out of 10, they'll root for you as well, you know, because they know it's you versus your numbers, even though you're competing against them as well. It's very much that sort of environment, if you know what I mean. So it's good. It's very addictive, yeah.
Would you ever do a competition?
God, no.
No?
My anxiety wouldn't allow. No, I wouldn't be able to channel my anxiety. I'd end up in a corner being like, oh God, no, I can't do it now.
Some of your warm-up lists can get rid of that. You know, once you get into, you know, you'll chat with other competitors while you do it, where you're warming up, because you'll warm up together. There might be 10 of you in your flight, that's doing your, usually in competition, they split you into flights. They call them flights. It could be 10 or 12 people. So instead of having 30 people do their first squat, say number 1, then you've got to wait for the other 29 people. You're talking over half an hour before your next lift. So they split you into 10, so you get 10, 11 minutes between each lift. So they'll do flight A, flight B, flight C, and do it that way. So you'll warm up with people, you know, you'll get to know them, you'll get chatting with them, and it can be quite, you know, it can get rid of some of that nervousness, you know what I mean?
I don't know, I think that'd psych me out more. I think I'd be too focused on everybody else, being like, oh, but they can do better than me. Oh. And I'm super competitive though, and although I know I just want to kind of do the best for myself, if I didn't come first, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, that was pointless.
You do find some people, I know, you know, I'll be a train wheel lad, and he's been the same. He didn't want to compete because I think he had this thing of I'm not going to win, I need to win. Do you know what I mean? And I says, well, if you come away with lifting something that you've never lifted before, you have won in a way.
Yeah.
You know, there are some people who have been doing it a bit longer, more experienced, stronger. It's one of them things that you just have to, you know, on the day you might have hit a PB and come 5th. You might not hit a PB and win it. Yeah. So you just don't know who's there on the day. Do you know what I mean? So it's something you have to get out your head, I think, sometimes.
I think that's it's something we talk about a little bit in our coaching, is not comparing yourself to other people. Yeah. It's the most important thing. Powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it is, whatever you're going into the gym to do. If you go into the gym and look at someone who's trained for 10 years and is absolutely massive, and you're there and you've been there for 6 months and you've got a little bit of progress, if you're then comparing yourself to, like, there's no like middle ground there, is there?
No.
Between 10 years and 6 months.
Yeah, but it does happen though, doesn't it? You know, I used to do that. I used to go in the gym when I was doing the bodybuilding, you know. Yeah. And you look at the guy and think, oh, he's a big lad, but my arm's bigger than his, or, you know, shoulders, and, you know, and you be like that all the time. You look in the mirror and you come in and say, oh, my arms look bigger last week than they did this week. It's just like, you know, that my training flipped on its head when I walked in, and I wasn't bothered how I looked. It was more about what I was doing. Yeah. My training went through the roof then. It just took on a new level, because I wasn't bothered how I looked. It was more about what I was capable of doing, and my numbers, and my training just went through the roof. It was unbelievable. You know, I started to progress massively, you know, with just taking that thing out of it, of not worrying about how you're looking.
I think that's the slightly unhealthy thing with bodybuilding. It's slightly unhealthy. Bodybuilding is fairly unhealthy, and it's the fact that you have to get to a ridiculously low body fat percentage, your hormones stop working, etc., etc. But mentally, it's draining, because you are constantly going, okay, I need to get this a little bit bigger. I need to maybe just grow a little bit here. It's going into the gym, you're looking exactly at minute little details. If you stay doing that for a long time, it's going to mess with your head.
It's just destroying, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas if your goal is numbers oriented, you have shitty days where you go, just not feeling it today. You storm off home in a huff because you haven't hit whatever on your deadlift. You go, ugh. But you come back the next day or the day after and you're back to being fine, and your numbers keep progressing because you've got some kind of program built in to progress your numbers anyway. So it's a lot more forgiving, I think, mentally.
It is, yeah. I mean, and plus the fact when you do competition in in powerlifting. They're judging on what you're doing, your capability, your technique. They're not judging on how you look. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, whereas obviously bodybuilding is all about how you look. You know what I mean? That's the comparison, isn't it? You know what I mean? He's bigger than him. He's more defined than him. He's got more symmetry than him. So it's more of that than what you're capable. Whereas powerlifting is more your capability and your technique, making sure you're doing your lifts right. You know, you've got 3 judges, you know, and there are certain technical aspects to the lifts that you have to do, you know, for a pass, for a good lift. You know, so obviously that's what they're more bothered about. They're not bothered about how you look at all. You're big, small, fat, thin, muscular, whatever. It doesn't come into it. So that's the good part of it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a different sport. It's very addictive, I find. I think it's very, very addictive. Yeah. You know, when I first started it, you know, Kerry, bless her, said, just don't get obsessed with it.
Oops.
So here we are, like, buying 200-pound weightlifting belts and travelling all over the country to do competitions and world championships and stuff. And, you know, not doing anything every weekend because I train Saturdays. You know, eating meals on my own because I train Tuesday and Thursdays. It takes its toll. You have to live it. But, you know, don't get obsessed. Yeah, that got massively out of control. But I'm one of them sort of all-in people. Yeah. You know what I mean? If I do something, I'm all in it and I'm going as far as I can with it. You know what I mean? So that's where, that just came down. But you find a lot of people who go into it are very much like that as well. You know, it's very, what's the word? Addictive that way, I'd say. Yeah.
You mentioned eating then. Let's talk a bit about diet.
What?
What's a day look like for you?
In a full born training block for a competition, where you're sort of at the middle to latter end of it, where every week's heavy, you know, even your lighter weeks, so called, are starting to get heavy. It's just a deadlift day. So let's just say I'm deadlifting in the afternoon, so I'll get up, start off with sometimes beans on toast. I do a protein shake where I put protein shake, you know, ready-made one, bananas, blueberries, raspberries, peanut butter, have that as well. On my way into work, I'll stop and get a bacon sandwich, get that down me as well. Flapjack, go through flapjack like it's no out fashion. Have probably a snack, you know, a banana at 10 o'clock-ish. Lunchtime will be 2 jacket taters, cheese and beans, get that down me. Drinking isotonics, can of Monster, you know, you need, not only you need the fuel, you need that burst of energy as well. And then, say if I'm deadlifting about 3-ish, half 3, so about 2 o'clock, I'll probably have a couple of bananas. Mm-hmm. And that'll be me then set, you know, take a pre-workout shot or little can of Red Bull or something. I'm not a pre-workout powder fan. So a little can of Red Bull down that and off we go. And I'll have a drink, which is an isotonic drink. In that will be some salt. We'll put a pinch of salt in and probably half a can of Red Bull as well to mix into it, just so you've got that sugary aspect to it, you know, that bit of burst. Might take a banana with me, depends on how heavy you're going, how long your session's going to be.
You thought about growing bananas?
Yeah, they're just great for the energy release, you know, that sort of, you know, it's, as I start to warm up, I'll probably start the banana, if you know what I mean. Won't eat it and I won't, you know, I'll just nibble at it as we go through. Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much a deadlift day, if you know what I mean. A normal day will be not much different. I'll probably have a sandwich at lunch rather than a big carb overload, you know. It's just the fuel, you know. Deadlifts can burn they just drain the life out of you, so you need the fuel, you know. It's not doing your heavy working set, it's the build up to them. So if your working set's 260 or 270, you know, you've got to work up to it. You know, you just don't obviously walk in and you don't take big jumps either because of the risk of injury. You've got to warm up and get into it. So you end up doing 8 lifts, you know, various rep ranges, you know. So
it's a lot of volume.
Yeah, and it takes a bit of time to find out on your warm up how many reps to do at certain weights that you don't burn too much energy, but you warm up sufficiently that you're able to, you know, to be warm enough to do your heavy sets. So that takes a bit of getting used to. But you do that with all of them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about obviously Wendler and strong lifts as well.
Yeah.
Both really good starting points. So strong lifts is absolutely perfect if you start in powerlifting. It's like those things generally, they have warm-ups built into them, don't they? In some aspects. So I know there are apps for 531, there's apps for strong lifts as well, where it will tell you exactly what weights to warm up with and how many sets to do and all this kind of thing. So it kind of takes the thinking out of it a little bit. I mean, when you're experienced, you know your body and you know sort of how many reps you want to do at certain weights and that kind of thing. But if you're starting, you can generally find that those warm-ups, it's just better to follow what it says.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know your body at that stage, do you?
No. It also depends on what weights you're starting at as well. You know, if you're quite advanced, like you say, and your working weights are quite high, then you're going to do more warm-up weights, aren't you? So that's more energy burn, you know what I mean? Rather than if you're starting out and your working weights are relatively lighter, it's quicker to get there, you know, so you need to think about maybe do a few more reps at the lighter weights because you're going to get to your working weight quite quick, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's something that it's just trial and error and find, you know, we've done it before where I've sort of been too tired up in working sets because I've done too much warm-up. Mm-hmm. And then there's other times where I found my working sets really heavy because I think that I'm just not warmed up enough, you know, where your central nervous system starts firing on all cylinders and everything's... It's a weird thing because when you're deadlifting or squatting, let's just say I'm going up to 260, I can get up to 150, 160 and they feel quite heavy, you know. And then also on 180, 200 feels like 100. Because all of a sudden your body's now firing, it's having to use everything for those weights. Your central nervous system's kicked in, your posterior chain's firing, everything's firing. Whereas at 160, 150, it's not having to call on them as much. So you find that happens, it'll just click your weight, and all of a sudden 200, 220, 240 will feel really good. You know, because everything's, you know, your blood pressure's come up nice to a nice level, you know, because that helps.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just trial and error finding it. It's, you know, you try it one way, then try it another way. But again, it comes down to the day as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, have you got enough fuel in you? You know, I was quite paranoid about that, you know, getting enough fuel in me more than anything for the session. So yeah, don't know what this word diet is. You've never heard that before.
Have you ever counted calories? Have you ever?
No.
Even bodybuilding?
No. Not really. No. It's not something. The nutritional side of it never really interests me. If you know what I mean. Never. I suppose I took more protein. I suppose doing the bodybuilding weight, training. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But the powerlifting tends to be more. Well, I for me it works a bit more carb orientated. You know, a bit more fuel in me than anything else. Once you're carrying a bit of body weight, with the right technique, you can transfer that into power. You know, and it's, you know, it can speak volumes. So that's one of the nice things about it, if you know what I mean.
Bonuses,
just eat, don't worry about it, just get it down.
You're sort of doing a bit of power building programming at the moment, aren't you? Learning a little bit.
I mean, not out of my own choice. If you just found me a program and went, yeah, you should try this. And I went, okay.
Well, it's programming from someone, isn't it? So,
yeah. It's good fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. You're definitely getting stronger.
Yeah, I feel it. And like I'm noticing
more
and I feel like I'm building more. And like the weights that I lifting now, I'd like benching more than I ever thought. I mean, I was like plateauing at like, I think 30. Obviously, I'm not a big person. I can't lift like stupid numbers. But I mean, what was it that I did the other day that I told you?
You're moving 40 quite easily the other day. 45, I think.
45. Like, bearing in mind my body weight's 52 kilograms and I'm benching 45 and squatting. Again, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I squatted 48, I think it was, the other day, and like deadlifted 50 the other day as well. It's like especially if like around my body weight. I'm like,
Yeah.
And I'd plateaued for quite a while at much, much lower weights. And yeah, I'm like, it's quite fun, this. Quite like moving this kind of way.
And especially the rest period between sets as well.
Yeah, being like, oh, this is
fantastic.
nice. Sorry, I can't go again. I've just got to wait about 5 minutes.
5? That's cardio, that is. It's going to be at least 8 or 9 minutes.
No, it's good fun. I like it.
It's very addictive for anyone who's sort of trained, like doing, I don't know, high rock style training, or they've done triathlons or any kind of things like that. I would say powerlifting is one of the most addictive things you can do, because you're always chasing numbers.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how strong you get, you're always chasing more.
Yeah, you're always trying to better yourself and, chase that goal, that target number. Or if you're competing, you've got a competition to aim for, you know what I mean? Because the calendar comes out pretty much for the year, and you could pick a competition and say, right, that's 9 months away. So that's your year virtually taken up then of training. So, and that's how we did with the World Championships in 2023. We actually decided to train for that day in 2022, 18 months before.
Okay.
That was the decision to say, right, UK IPL World Championships, Coventry in October 2023, will start next week for that day. Even though I had to go through a qualifier, British Championships and European Championships to qualify, that's how long that goal was, 18 months worth of training for that one day. So that's, it can be, that's you taking up then. You don't have to worry about anything, what you're going to do in 6 months' time, 4 months' time. Yeah. It's all written out for you. You know what I mean? So, last year, the plan was to squat 300 kilo. We made that decision after, after I'd done World Championships. Like, well, where do you go from here? I want to squat 300 kilo. Somebody said to me, Andy, it's never going to happen. That sounds like a challenge.
Watch me.
Yeah. So we started with that, and we got right up to, what I did, 285 for 2, right before I got injured, before I, had a slight strain on my hamstring, which I had to pull out of competition, so, and that's how it works. Went all year, right through to, I was due to compete in December, and 2 weeks before, on one of the last lifts I was doing, I had a hamstring injury and had to pull out. But then it was like sometimes. Reset, and it wasn't as bad as we thought. Yeah. And then obviously the next one was in May. That's just gone. So we just sort of reset with the numbers and went from there. I
think that's something you've got to accept is going to be part of it, isn't it? Injury.
Yeah, but we took the difference with May competition, which I find was quite interesting, was we took the mental side of it out. So we said, if you squat 300, great. If you don't, you don't. Just go and have fun, lift what you can, have a good day doing it, which I've never done before. I've always been chasing either a title, trying to win it, or numbers, you know what I mean? So when it went down for May, and obviously I went in, and everybody said, who usually comes with me and everything, said that it was the first time you actually looked like you enjoyed it. You enjoyed doing what you were doing, which I did, you know what I mean? I was a lot more relaxed than I normally was, because I just thought, I'm lifting, I've been lifting good, so let's just enjoy it. Let's just go with how it was. And actually the bench press did. I went off on a tangent on bench press. The idea was to go 170, 175, 180. I went 170, that moved so easy. I went 177.5. And when that moved easy, it was like 182.5. Which is obviously I've never done before. So and I got that lift as well. So yeah, so on the day you just see how it goes, and just make your adjustments. Yeah. But yeah, it was different because there was because I don't like bench press. I never put a target on it. You know what I mean? It was only squat that had the target, and I mirrored the sort of deadlift training side of it, because deadlift complements your squat, squat complements your deadlift. But deadlift, there was no target with deadlift either. Number-wise, it was just mainly squat. I wanted to squat because I love doing it. So, so that was the sort of goal. But then when we took that out, the day went brilliant. 280 squat, 182.5 bench, and a 280 deadlift. 742.5 kilo total score, which was 47 kilo higher than I'd ever done before. So that spoke volumes on just taking that mental pressure side out of it and just saying, oh, we'll just lift where we are. Do you know what I mean? Wherever we're at, great. We'll just lift at that. And that's what we did. And it seemed to work on the day. But you do have them numbers in your head. You do. You have them little numbers in the back of your head that you think, well, I'd love to. I could have squatted 290 plus on the day. But, I had a stumble on the 260 to start with, and we just went a bit more conservative with that because that just threw me off a little bit. But I think I could probably squat 290. I came off the stage after my last squat, and even one of the other guys says, you had another 10 kilo in you there. And you start thinking, get in gym next week and go for it. But yeah.
Part 2 will continue with plenty more great insight from Andy next episode.